A train blows through the dust and sand. Right before the caboose, the car door opens near the back part, and almost a dozen men carrying rifles and shotguns enter. The train car barely had anyone inside as they walked inside the car, all except for a woman and man sitting in front of her. Two more men enter the train car, pushing a man, gagged and tied up in chains, to a seat.
You think they're gonna hang him in Peterson Town?
One of the men, skinny with a southern accent, asked one of the other men.
I don't give a flying fuck what they do with him. I just want my share of the bounty's pay.
The man replied, annoyed. These men appear to be bounty hunters. The chained man glances towards the woman. At first glance, she seemed helpless. The woman was short and thin, and it seemed like her strength wouldn't be a problem. However, with a closer look, she was packing a Colt, strapped to her right hip and a small pouch on the other. The woman's elbow was propped up on the armrest, fiddling with something in her right hand. It looked to be a small-sized sewing needle. She had her eyes locked on the man in front of her. The two men continue to talk. One decides to hit the prisoner upside the head.
Now tell me, you and your boys stole heavy weaponry from Fort Matthews last week. You can tell us where they are. We can cut some time for you. Life in prison sound better than a hangman's noose?
He chuckles. The prisoner rolled his eyes and faced the window, glancing at the woman again. The woman kept her gaze locked on the man. With a quick flick of her wrist, the needle was flung into the back of his neck. He flinches in pain. She pulls the needle back with a small hair-like string. The needle comes back to her hand. As she catches it, the woman slips it back into the pin in her sleeve. The man rubs the back of his neck before shrugging it off and returning to his paper. The woman shifts her gaze to the window, seemingly waiting for something. The chained man smirks at the woman, being the only one who witnessed her actions. He continues looking out the window. His eyes widen a bit, then back to normal. He began to chuckle.
The hell are you laughing at, boy?
One man said as he pushed the prisoner away from the window. The prisoner began to speak, but no one understood what he was saying. Annoyed, the other man removes the gag from his mouth.
Speak, or they'll be hanging a one-legged man.
Suddenly, the man in front of the woman lets out an agonizing scream as he grabs his chest. Unable to speak, he drops to the floor, gasping for air. The woman glances at him as he grips his shirt, groaning with pain. She kept a straight face, showing no emotion, yet there was pleasure in her eyes as he suffered. Two guards rushed towards him. They move the man over to see what's happening.
You can't help him.
The woman says coldly, glancing at the guards as his body tenses and twitches.
He's having a myocardial infarction. Either he'll survive, or he won't.
She continues, glancing at them. One of the bounty hunters looks at her confused.
The hell is a myocardial?
A heart attack, you moron. And by the looks of it, he didn't survive.
She says as a slight smirk curves her lips, seeing the man dead on the floor. They look at the man and sigh.
Help me move him to the next car.
He said, grabbing his arms.
I don't want to be sitting next to a corpse.
Now, gentlemen.
The prisoner says with a giant grin, looking at the two men picking up the body.
To answer your questions, my friends and I thought the army didn't need more weapons or cannons. So we decided to take them for the time being.
He gets smacked upside the head by the third man sitting behind him, this time with the butt end of a pistol.
And you think that was so smart?
One of the men said with ignorance.
Now what the hell are you gonna do with that?
The prisoner looked at the man and smiled.
To rob a train.
He says calmly. The bounty hunter takes his pistol and aims it at his head, cocking it.
What train?
He asked. A sound can be quickly heard in the distance.
This train.
He smiled. Glancing at the window, the prisoner stands up, backhanding the man behind him to the floor before hopping towards the seat beside him, ducking for cover.
What are you?
The woman angrily barked. The car's front side explodes from a cannonball, destroying part of the train car wall and hitting the two bounty hunters, killing them on impact. Everyone stumbles to the floor. The woman lets out a small scream as she falls out of her seat, landing on top of the man from the explosion.
About damn time.
The man complained. He looks at the woman on top of him.
Mind if I borrow this?
He asks as he unholsters her revolver and aims it between both legs. The man fires several shots until the chain breaks off his ankle.
Now, if you could get off, that'd be great.
The woman glares down at the man and snatches her gun from his hand. She sits on his hips and grabs some of the bullets from her pouch.
Oh, shut your trap. You're a criminal, are you not? Why would I let you leave?
She asks sternly as she reloads her revolver. Another shot can be heard from a distance. The wanted man quickly grabs the woman's arms and flips her over, putting himself on top. The middle of the damaged wall bursts open. The cannonball flies over, impacting the other wall. The man looked at the woman and then quickly got off her. As he stood up, he noticed several of the bounty hunters aiming their rifles at him.
Now, gentlemen, can't we talk about this?
He asks with a smirk as he slowly raises his hand towards the air, revealing his handcuffed wrists.
I hate getting caught up in shit. It's none of my business.
The woman whispered, annoyed, rolling under the seat towards the back. She stops right before hitting one of the guard's feet. Peeking up at the guard, she noticed the man was about to pull the trigger. Keeping her gun hidden, the woman yanked on his pant leg. The guard looks down at her. The prisoner quickly shifts his body slightly to face the giant hole in the wall. A rifle can be heard in the distance. The man's chains shattered into pieces, and he dashed back into cover. Looking back up towards the prisoner, they all began firing. He hid behind a seat, bullets flying all around him. He began to chuckle in enjoyment.
Oh, forget it.
The woman groaned with a sigh of annoyance. She swung her legs and wrapped them around the guard's legs, yanking him to the floor. As he falls, the woman violently twists and grabs his head, snapping his neck. She pushed him aside and began to crawl under more seats. Another guard notices the dead guard and the woman crawling away. He begins firing randomly in her direction with a pump-action shotgun, missing every shot. The sound of a cannon firing can be heard once more. The last part of the intact wall bursts open and debris flies everywhere, killing a couple more guards on impact. The others fall to the floor. Bits and pieces of the wall cover the seats where the woman was hiding. The prisoner stands up and looks at all the damage. Smiling, the outlaw walks towards the open wall. He pulls out a red cloth from his back pocket and waves it around. A bounty hunter struggles getting up. He pulls out a small revolver and aims it at the outlaw.
No good bastard.
He mutters as he's about to pull the trigger. The woman rolls out from under the seat and aims her revolver at the side of the guard's head.
Says the one pointing a gun at the unarmed man.
She growled as she pulled the trigger, killing him.
Burn in hell, filth.
The outlaw looked at the man inside.
Well, you didn't have to do that. Poor Sob.
He smirked. The man approached the body and picked up a revolver and a black hat. Checking the firearm, he takes the ammo sash off the corpse.
Thanks for the help, anyway.
The man says as he reloads the revolver. The sound of horses can be heard coming from the side.
Now, I'd love to stick around, but
Gunshots can be heard in a train car before them.
I'm kinda running late.
He opened the door to the next car. The woman looked down at the bodies on the floor.
You think you could fool me?
She muttered, glancing to the side. One of the bodies was slowly grabbing his rifle. She then shot dead the last guard alive on the floor. The outlaw turned to see the woman taking the shot before she climbed out of the remaining intact windows.
Weird kid.
The man muttered as he opened the door. Putting on the red cloth, he uses it as a mask to cover his face. Opening the door, he saw 3 masked men, one wearing a 3-piece suit with a bowler hat, one wearing a leather vest with a double bandolier, and the last wearing native clothing.
Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. We're proper rubbers. Nobody will get hurt if they comply.
The man in the suit said. His voice had a harsh Irish accent to it. Watching from the door, the former prisoner spots a seated man slowly pulling a revolver from his coat pocket. He steps beside him and cocks his pistol at his head.
Now. No need for violence.
He chuckled.
Mr. Dantes!
The Irishman said with joy, holstering his revolver.